On a tiny peninsula on the south coast of China sits a place smaller than many cities' airports, where more money is gambled away than anywhere else on the planet. Not double Las Vegas, not triple. At its peak, around 7 times the entire Las Vegas Strip. But this same speck of land is also the last relic of a European empire that lasted 442 years. A city of Portuguese egg tarts and baroque churches, where the street signs are written in a language almost no one there actually speaks. It is a Chinese city that spent longer under a European flag than almost anywhere on Earth, that runs almost entirely on a single card game, and where the government hands every resident a stack of cash every single year just for living there. This is Macau, and it is one of the strangest places in the world. Macau's story begins not with China, but with Portugal. In 1557, Portuguese traders, the first Europeans to reach China by sea, were granted a small foothold on this rocky peninsula. It became their gateway for trade between China, Japan, and Europe, the first permanent European settlement in East Asia, and as it turned out, the one that would last the longest. For centuries, Macau was a Portuguese city on the edge of a Chinese empire, and that heritage never left. To this day, its old quarter is a little piece of southern Europe. Pastel Portuguese townhouses, cobbled squares, baroque Catholic churches, above all the famous ruins of St. Paul's, the stone face of a cathedral that burned away centuries ago. Its most beloved snack is the pastel de nata, the Portuguese egg tart. Its cuisine, Macanese, fuses Portuguese and Cantonese cooking into something found nowhere else. And when the Portuguese finally handed Macau back to China, at the stroke of midnight on the 20th of December, 1999, it marked the very end of an era, the last European colony in all of Asia, closing after 4.5 centuries. When Macau returned to China, it came back on the very same terms as its famous neighbor, Hong Kong, just an hour's ferry away. It became a special administrative region, under the principle of one country, two systems. It kept its own government, its own laws, its own capitalist economy, its own currency, the pataka, and its own border, promised unchanged for 50 years, until 2049. On paper, it is Hong Kong's twin. But the two cities could hardly have turned out more differently. Where Hong Kong erupted in mass pro-democracy protests, Macau stayed calm, quiet, and famously loyal to Beijing. There were no million-strong marches here, no showdowns in the street. And the reason for that difference comes down to one thing, one enormous thing, that Hong Kong never had. Macau had a golden goose. That golden goose was gambling. For most of the last 2 centuries, betting was banned across mainland China, and later in British Hong Kong too. But in tiny Portuguese Macau, it was not just legal. It was licensed, taxed, and encouraged. And in 1962, the government handed the exclusive right to run every casino in the territory to a single company controlled by one man, Stanley Ho. For the next 40 years, Stanley Ho held a total monopoly on Macau gambling. He became one of the richest and most powerful men in Asia, nicknamed the King of Gambling, and his casinos turned Macau into the gaming capital of the East. But under the monopoly, it stayed a relatively small, smoky, sometimes seedy gambling town, a place with a reputation for triads and vice. That was about to change, completely. In 2002, 3 years after the handover, Macau ended Stanley Ho's 40-year monopoly and threw its doors open to the world. The giants of global gambling poured in. The American titans behind Las Vegas, alongside new Asian operators. Together, They transformed the place beyond recognition. Between two of Macau's islands, they reclaimed land from the sea and built something staggering: the Cotai Strip, a Las Vegas of the East on steroids, a canyon of colossal casino resorts, replica Venetian canals, and one property, the Venetian Macau, that became one of the largest casinos on the entire planet. And the money did not just grow, it detonated. By 2013, Macau's annual gambling revenue reached roughly $45 billion, about 7 times that of the Las Vegas Strip. This one tiny territory had become, by an enormous margin, the undisputed gambling capital of the world. But Macau does not gamble the way Las Vegas does. In Vegas, the money comes from slot machines, shows, buffets, and families on holiday. In Macau, it comes overwhelmingly from one single game: baccarat, a fast, simple card game that has, in some years, made up nearly 90% of all the money wagered on the tables. And for a long time, the real fortunes weren't won on the main floor at all, but behind closed doors, in the VIP rooms, where a small number of enormous high rollers bet staggering sums. These whales were brought in and bankrolled by middlemen called junket operators, who lent them money, chased their debts, and crucially helped them move cash out of mainland China, around Beijing's strict limits on taking money abroad. For years, this VIP junket business was the beating heart of Macau's boom. It made the city astonishingly rich. It also made it dangerously exposed, because that river of VIP money had a problem. Much of it was, in effect, a giant machine for spiriting wealth out of China, capital flight and money laundering on an industrial scale. And Beijing decided it had seen enough. From around 2014, a sweeping anti-corruption campaign and tighter financial controls slammed into Macau's VIP trade, and the high roller revenue began to slide. Then came the reckoning. The largest junket operator of them all, Sun City, run by a man named Alvin Chow, was accused of running an illegal gambling empire. Chow was arrested and in 2023 sentenced to 18 years in prison. The junket industry that had powered Macau for a generation was almost overnight dismantled, and so Macau was forced to reinvent how it made its money, pivoting away from the secretive VIP whales toward the ordinary mass-market tourist, streaming across the border in their millions. To understand modern Macau, you have to understand that gambling is not merely its biggest industry. It is, more or less, its government. In a typical year, gaming taxes supply around 80% of all the money the Macau government takes in. The casinos, in effect, fund the state. And this produces one of the most remarkable arrangements anywhere on Earth. Because the government is so awash in casino cash, it doesn't need to squeeze its citizens for it. Instead, it does the opposite. Every single year, Macau hands out money to every permanent resident, a direct cash payment of thousands of patakas each, no strings attached. It's officially called the Wealth Partaking Scheme, your annual share of the winnings from the tables, funded by the house, paid to the people. It has helped make Macau one of the wealthiest places per person in the world, and helped keep its population comfortable, prosperous, and content. Now take all of this, the mega casinos, the Portuguese churches, the 700,000 people, and cram it into a territory of just 33 square kilometers, a fraction the size of a normal city. The result is the single most densely populated place on the entire planet. Over 20,000 people packed into every square kilometer. It is a city of dizzying contrasts. 400-year-old Catholic chapels stand in the neon shadow of the largest casinos on Earth. You spend your patakas, but you place your bets in Hong Kong dollars. The police give orders in Cantonese, while the legal code traces its roots back to Lisbon, old Portugal, modern China, and Las Vegas, folded together and stacked vertically on one impossibly crowded scrap of coast. But a city built on a single bet is always taking a risk. When the pandemic sealed the borders, Macau's gambling revenue crashed by around 80% almost overnight. A brutal lesson in what happens when your entire economy rests on one game. And so today, Beijing is pressing Macau to do the hardest thing of all, to diversify beyond gambling into tourism, culture, finance, and technology, and to knit itself ever more tightly into mainland China. Its casino licenses have been renewed, but now bound to promises of non-gaming investment. And quietly, the same clock that hangs over Hong Kong ticks here too, counting down to 2049. Macau remains one of the most improbable success stories on Earth. A scrap of a former European empire that became the gambling capital of the planet, that funds its government and pays its people straight from the card tables, and that must now, somehow, gamble on a future beyond the game. For the moment at least, the house always wins.